Buongiorno! I recently got into cottagecore fashion. I became fond of 18th century stays, which is the corset-like garment I am wearing right now, and I actually made it. I was going to purchase one off of Etsy, and I was willing to pay about $200 for one of these, but I wasn't able to get one because they sold out very quickly, so I decided to figure out how to make my own. And I'm going to show you how to make them as well. Please follow me into my lair. These stays are reversible, so please choose 2 fabrics of your liking. They can either both be thick or one be thick and one be of a thinner nature. The flower pattern on the left is my thick fabric, and the green on the right is a thinner fabric, and they are each a yard. Please iron your fabric first. I made the mistake of not doing that for one of them, and it just messes up the pattern. So I drafted my own pattern using clothing that already fit me. So I suggest you do the same, and there are tutorials on YouTube how to do that. Make sure your fabric is facing the right direction. You can't see, but there are little roses, and I almost cut so that they would be upside down. Here I'm using the back pattern piece and cutting it on a fold and pinning the pattern so it doesn't shift around while I'm cutting. Then I carefully trace around the pattern as close to the line, the edges of the pattern as possible so it's accurate. We want all of our pieces to be accurate. Yeah, I didn't see the line clearly enough, so I retraced it so I can, see the line and cut on the line. Snippy, snip, snip, snip. So here's the back piece. Next I'm going to do the front piece, which you don't want to cut out on a line because the edge is slanted, so it's smaller at the smaller at the waist and bigger in the bosom. Yeah. So I made sure my fabric was lined up properly and not upside down. And just repeat the process from the back pattern piece. And you're gonna cut out 2. And I flipped the pattern over because, right and left side. So you're gonna have 3 pieces, 1 for the back and 2 for the front. And then repeat that process for your other fabric. You should have 6 pieces total. 2 backs and 4 fronts. Next, I'm going to pin each bodice on the sides with the right sides facing each other to kind of make a vest, and then sew it up on the machine. I just used a straight stitch and stitch both sides. Please press your seams. I usually never do because I tend to be lazy, but it just makes everything easier sewing, and it's a really good idea, and it doesn't take that much time. So after that, lay the pieces with the right sides together and pin the top only, leaving the bottom open. So like the top and the sides. Make sure that the most important seams that you want aligned are the arm seams that we pressed. So make sure that they are aligned with each other. And then carefully sew as you take the bits out. And now we are going to trim the excess off so they are even. And I'm also cutting little slits in the armpit area to make it easier to turn inside out so it's not all bunchy. And cut the corners too. I heard that's a good idea when you need to make a double-sided garment and turn it inside out, which is what we're doing here. And then get your iron out again. I would suggest you keep an iron and ironing board while you're making this in your sewing area, just the whole time. And then just press our seams so it's all nice and flat. See, now it's coming together. Do you see it? Wait, there we go. Look at that. And now it's time to make the channels for the boning. I use the pressure foot, like the edge of the pressure foot as a guide, and make sure that you use that for all of the channels, or just figure out just make sure they are all the same width, because if they're a different width then it's gonna look weird and not line up. You're gonna want the second channel to be a bit bigger for that is where the eyelets are going to go. And then 3 more centimeter wide or so channels like the first one, so it looks like this. And see, that's a good distance for the eyelets. And then you're gonna want to do the other side, so it looks like this. I also wanted to make 2 more channels that were angled in to the waist on both sides. I used a piece of masking tape to create this angled line to help direct me when I sew. Make sure the line on both sides is the same distance from the last channel that you sewed. Mine was about 2 inches. And then just use the same pressure foot method. Make sure that it's the same width. And of course, do the same on the other side, and it should look something like this. Now it is time to measure our holes for the eyelets. A package will be enough for one at your local Hooby Looby. Or I kind of jimmy rigged this hole measuring thing with lined paper and a hole punch to get my desired hole measurements, because you want them to be aligned. They don't have to be perfect, but you want them to be pretty. You want to make sure they're aligned enough so it's not all wonky. And then just even out the circles, and this will be a guide for when we put the holes in our fabric for the eyelets. There are tutorials on YouTube on how to put in eyelets. It took me a while to put them in properly, so make sure you practice before doing it on your final garment. Use like a piece of scrap fabric. For the shoulder eyelet holes, I just kind of eyeballed it and traced the inside of the eyelet as I placed it where I wanted it. Here's a quick demonstration on how I made my eyelet holes. I punched through with an awl, which is a sewing tool used for poking holes in things. I slowly made the hole bigger with little snips. You don't want to make the hole too big or the eyelet will fall out and then you ruined everything. So it's better than for it to be small, and you work your way little by little, like slowly cutting the hole open with little snips. So once you finally push the bottom half of the eyelet through your fabric, it should be nice and snug. And then get your eyelet kit and go to town on it with a hammer on a hard surface. Books aren't hard enough because I've tried that just to be quieter, but you're gonna have to be loud, so yikes. Many hours later, I finally hammered all the eyelets into place. Now it is finally time for the boning. So you're gonna want to measure your boning with a little bit of extra space in the fabric at the end to sew on your ribbon or bias tape, because you don't want to sew through the boning. That will wreck your sewing machine. And I recommend to melt the edges of the boning, or else it'll poke through your fabric, because that happened to me. So please use caution while using fire. Yeah, I'm paranoid of burning my house down and accidentally killing my family, so I like to do it on a non-flammable surface with water nearby, like a sink area. Here's an aesthetic spooky shot, because it's spoopy month. And then slowly work all the boning into the channels that you made. Make sure all the curves are facing the same way. I think I'll be wearing the pattern side more, so I had it curved like so your body would like push out the boning. We're almost done. The last step is to cut the ribbon. You'll need 4 pieces of ribbon total, 1 to close up the bottom, or you could use bias tape for that, but you'll need ribbon for the shoulders and to lace it up in the front. For the ribbon or bias tape that'll be closing up the bottom of the stay, I'll make sure there's a bit of excess on each side. That way you cover all your raw edges. I wished I used a thicker piece of ribbon or bias tape for this part, because later you'll see that it got messed up. It didn't quite sew through the ribbon and both sides of the stay, like the green fabric and the rose printed fabric. I like to iron all of my rebone. The one that you use to lace it up will be longer than all the other ones. Like a lot longer, I think like 74 inches, that's how long mine was. Yeah, make sure you pin the bias tape or ribbon or whatever you use. You'll see my mistake in a bit here, because the fabric kind of slipped out of the ribbon casing, whatever, even though I tried to sew carefully. But sewing is hard. If you're not precise, then things can go wrong. See what happened right there? It happened in a lot of spots, so I just kind of hand sewed, and it looks pretty decent, so I'm not too upset about it. Oh, I forgot to say, make sure you burn the edges of the ribbon. Just melt it a little bit so it doesn't fray. And you're all done, and here's me showing you how to lace it up. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It's kind of like tying a shoe. But yeah, make sure it's nice and tight, but not too tight. And finish it off with a bow, and you're done. I love stays because you can dress them up or dress them down. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you like this kind of tutorial style video. Say bye. Say bye-bye. I was like, what the fuck?
Yes, Harley.
Get some more fleas and some...
Bye.
This should be the thumbnail. Hey!
Cat force.